Artillery has long been the decisive force on the battlefield. Long after the guns fell silent, Field Marshal Alan Brooke, Britain's senior military commander of the Second World War, reflected that it was artillery, not tanks or aircraft, that would ultimately win the conflict. No army embraced this belief more completely than the United States Army. American planners viewed artillery as the great equalizer, the weapon capable of smashing defensive lines, halting enemy offensives, and imposing overwhelming firepower wherever the battle demanded. Yet even the most powerful gun was useless if it could not reach the fight in time. Mobility, not firepower, was the true limiting factor. In the early years of the war, moving heavy artillery remained a slow, punishing ordeal. Massive guns crawled forward at the pace of marching men, shackled by primitive transport methods that had changed little in centuries. Guns were dragged by horses, hauled by underpowered trucks, restricted to paved roads, or broken down and reassembled piece by piece. The German army, despite its reputation for lightning warfare, still relied on more than 1 million horses to move the bulk of its artillery. Speed at the front meant little if the guns that decided battles lagged far behind. This delay created a deadly vulnerability. Once emplaced, heavy artillery tended to stay put. Establishing firing positions could take hours, sometimes days, leaving gun batteries exposed and predictable. Enemy reconnaissance aircraft quickly identified these static positions, directing devastating counter-battery fire. In a war defined by rapid maneuver, artillery that could not move swiftly became obsolete almost as soon as it was deployed. The battle simply moved on without it. American observers recognized this flaw early. Determined to fight a fully mechanized war, the U.S. Army concluded that artillery had to move with the same freedom as tanks and infantry. The solution would not be another tank, nor a conventional wheeled vehicle. What was needed was a purpose-built machine, something rugged, fast, and tracked, that existed for one role alone, dragging the heaviest guns across any terrain at the speed of modern warfare. That answer came in the form of the M4 high-speed tractor. The M4 emerged from a distinctly American design philosophy rooted in efficiency, standardization, and industrial scale. Developed by Alice Chalmers, it was not conceived as a revolutionary new vehicle from a clean sheet of paper. Instead, its designers made a far smarter decision. They built it upon an existing, proven foundation. The chassis was derived from the M3 Stuart light tank, itself a development of the earlier M2. This choice dramatically reduced development time and simplified production. By using the Stuart's vertical volute spring suspension system and narrow steel tracks, the M4 inherited a suspension already known for reliability and ease of maintenance. Spare parts were plentiful. Mechanics were familiar with the system, and repairs could be carried out quickly, even in forward areas. This was the arsenal of democracy in action. Mass production, not just of weapons, but of compatibility. Power came from a centrally mounted Waukesha 145GZ six-cylinder gasoline engine, producing around 210 horsepower. Placing the engine beneath the crew compartment floor was an inspired choice. It balanced the vehicle's weight perfectly, preventing the front end from lifting when towing heavy artillery pieces. This configuration gave the M4 exceptional traction and stability, even when hauling guns weighing many tons over rough ground. At over 14 tons empty, the M4 was no lightweight, but it was far more than a towing vehicle. It was a complete mobile gun section. The enclosed forward compartment carried the entire artillery crew, up to 11 men, shielding them from weather and small arms fire. Behind them sat a massive ammunition locker capable of transporting dozens of heavy shells. When the M4 reached a firing position, the gun, the crew, and the initial supply of ammunition all arrived together, ready for immediate action. For self-defense and protection against low-flying aircraft, the M4 was fitted with a ring-mounted .50 caliber M2 Browning machine gun. This was not a token addition. The Browning gave artillery units the ability to defend themselves during movement and emplacement, reinforcing the idea that no vehicle on the modern battlefield was truly non-combatant. With a top speed of roughly 35 miles per hour, the M4 could easily keep pace with armored columns. While safety limits reduced towing speeds for massive guns, the tractor's performance allowed it to unhitch quickly, dash back for ammunition, or relocate to new positions at will. Artillery, once chained to the ground, was finally free to move. The true measure of the M4 high-speed tractor lay not in its specifications, but in the guns it moved and the tactics it made possible. Its primary mission was towing the heaviest and most important artillery pieces in the American arsenal. Among these was the formidable 90mm anti-aircraft gun, a weapon that proved just as lethal against German armor as it was against enemy aircraft. Thanks to the M4, these guns could be repositioned rapidly to protect key areas or establish deadly anti-tank ambushes. The tractor also hauled the massive 8-inch howitzer, but its most famous partner was the 155mm M1 field gun, known to every American artilleryman as the Long Tom. This was the premier heavy gun of the U.S. Army, capable of firing a 95-pound shell more than 14 miles with remarkable accuracy. While even larger weapons like the 240mm howitzer required the far heavier M6 tractor, the M4 was perfectly matched to the Long Tom. Together, they formed the backbone of American heavy artillery firepower. This pairing fundamentally changed how artillery was used. Mobility transformed doctrine. With the M4, gun batteries no longer remained fixed targets. Instead, they adopted a system of rapid displacement, what modern armies would later call shoot and scoot. A battery could race forward, unleash a devastating bombardment, then limber up and relocate before enemy counter-battery fire could respond. Heavy artillery was no longer prey. It had become a hunter. The impact of this mobility was felt across every theater of war. In Italy's mountainous terrain, where roads were narrow, muddy, and often destroyed, the M4's tracked mobility proved invaluable. In many cases, it was the only vehicle capable of dragging heavy guns into firing positions overlooking valleys and mountain passes. Without it, American artillery would have been confined to the low ground, dramatically reducing its effectiveness. In northwestern Europe, during the explosive advance across France, the M4 ensured that heavy artillery could keep pace with General Patton's fast-moving armored forces. While Sherman tanks surged forward, the Long Toms followed close behind, ready to obliterate German strongpoints from miles away. The combination of speed and firepower shattered enemy defenses before they could reorganize. The M4's value was not limited to American forces. Through the Lend-Lease program, hundreds were supplied to Britain and the Free French. These armies, long accustomed to slower artillery movement, suddenly gained a level of mobility that transformed their own heavy gun units. The M4 became an allied asset, multiplying the firepower of every army it served. The tractor's story did not end with victory in 1945. Its rugged construction and mechanical simplicity ensured a long post-war life. Thousands of surplus M4s were sold worldwide, finding new roles as logging tractors, construction vehicles, and artillery haulers in foreign armies. Nations such as the Netherlands and Japan continued to operate them well into the 1970s, more than 3 decades after their wartime debut. Such longevity was no accident. It was the direct result of an overbuilt, conservative design philosophy that prioritized durability over elegance. The M4 was never glamorous. It never appeared in propaganda posters or victory parades. Yet it quietly embodied the American way of war: victory through logistics, engineering, and overwhelming support. The M4 high-speed tractor rarely receives the recognition it deserves. Overshadowed by tanks and aircraft, it remains largely forgotten outside specialist circles. But without it, American artillery could never have achieved the dominance for which it became famous. The guns that broke German counterattacks, smashed fortifications, and paved the way for Allied advances all depended on this unassuming machine. In the end, the M4 was not a weapon of destruction, but a weapon of possibility. It gave heavy artillery the freedom to move, to survive, and to strike wherever it was needed. It stands as a reminder that wars are not won by flashy machines alone, but by the quiet, relentless power of superior logistics. And sometimes, the most important vehicles on the battlefield are the ones history forgets.